What's up everyone, this is Justin from Make Supply, and in this video tutorial we're making a basic card sleeve with a thumb slot on the back. If you'd like to purchase the template used in this video, it is available in two forms: as an instant digital download that you can print out and follow along, or as a physical acrylic template. Both of those are available in the Make Supply web shop or the Make Supply Etsy store. If you don't wish to purchase the template this time, we invite you to just follow along. Thanks. Okay, let's do inventory. This is a pretty simple project, so if you're new, this is a good place to start. It's really a one-piecer. Only one real challenging part, which is cutting the thumb slot curve, but other than that, it should be pretty straightforward. So we'll start with the template. This is printed out on 110 pound cardstock from Staples. Also available in an acrylic version. The leather we'll be using is a piece of Japanese shell cordovan in whiskey color. I'm not sure exactly what color it is. Metal cork back roller. Number 2 X-Acto knife. CS Osborne scratch awl, craft tool, 3mm diamond stitching chisel, 4-prong, 2-prong. The thread we'll be using is royal wood, waxed Irish linen, 7-ply. This is the rust color. As you can see, it's brand new. I've had it for a long time, but I've never used it, so now's as good a time as any. For burnishing edges, I'll have a wood slicker, piece of canvas cloth, a little cup of water, some saddle soap. For sanding edges, just a couple various grit sandpapers, a little bit of rubber cement, some Tandy stitching needles, and a little block leathercraft wax, or regular beeswax is fine. So next I will clear this off and we'll look at the template, cut it out, and get started. Okay, so there's not much to this template. It's only a one-piecer, as I said in the intro. Same with if you get the acrylic version, except for the holes already cut out. So to cut this out, I would suggest starting with the thumb slot, and then once you cut that out, cut out the body. You can do it, it doesn't really matter, but I just find that you have a little bit more to grab and a little bit more leverage when cutting out this part here, especially when we move it to the leather. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then we will move on to tracing it onto the leather. Okay, so I went ahead and cut out the template. Let's see. So now we will trace this onto our leather. So normally I would just put it right on the grain and trace with my scratch awl, but using this shell cordovan, it's very slippery. It's very so it's very easy for the template to slip. So I'm just going to trace it on the back like this. Same thing, just the template's universal, switch to either direction, so it really doesn't matter. Let me see where I wanted to put it, because I forget. That looks good. Okay, so I'm just going to swap out and use this one. Put that up in a good spot there, and then trace. So I would suggest, again, tracing your thumb slot first. And then go around the rest. Okay, this is pretty simple trace. I don't know if you can see this on there, but now we are ready to cut these out. Okay, so the first step I like to do when cutting anything that has like a thumb slot or something like that in the design is to let's see if I can bring this up here. Here's the thumb slot here. Cut a line from the top point of the slot to the bottom, and then from the somewhere in the middle, left to right, and that way it kind of cuts it into 4 pieces. And then when you start to, it makes it. I always find it makes it a little bit easier when you're when you're cutting this out around the perimeter, because as you go from one point to one, it pops out, and then if your cut's not looking good, you can kind of fix it a little easier. So that's what I'm going to do here. Going from the top to the bottom, and then side to side. Okay, see that there? And then you just go ahead and cut around. And as you see, they start to pop out. Okay. I'm going to pop that part out there. Let's see. Take your time when cutting these slots. Obviously, since there's no open ends to it, like outside, they're a little harder to clean up and a little harder to burnish. So you want to make sure your cuts are as solid as possible from the get-go. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of this. especially with the curve, freehanding the cut. Just take your time, get the blade in there, follow the marking as many times as it takes for it to pop out evenly. You don't want to put too much pressure, and then maybe you mess up your cut. It takes a little bit longer with the light strokes, but it comes out with a nicer end product usually. Okay, put this over here. Okay, so now I've finished cutting this piece out. See how this will get put together here. Just fold up and be a little card sleeve. Okay, so our next step will be to burnish this top edge, the thumb slot edge, and the edge of the curve. So we'll do that next. Okay, so I actually forgot to note the edge beveler that I'll be using in the inventory, but we will be using an edge beveler. I'll put a note in the video somewhere. Okay, so first I'm going to clean up this thumb slot. So hopefully you know the cuts were good and it's not too messy. And that's the case here, but you could always make it better. So I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper, kind of roll it up to like a shape that will fit inside of there. It's going to be tough with this one. Just enough to clean it and then go from the back, kind of just clean it up a little bit. This is a great time to use Dremel with the sanding cylinders. It gets in there real nice, but I won't use it this time. So I'm also going to take the edge beveler and really lightly go around the perimeter of this thumb slot just to clean it up. I'm only putting very minimal pressure on this. I don't want a heavy bevel, I just want to, clean up the cuts. Okay, that should be good. And I'll just do the same thing on the top. And the curve. Cool. So now we'll do some burnishing. Use a little bit of water here, some saddle soap. Just dampen the inside of that thumb slot. I always like to do this from the back, just in case you get any spillover. I'd rather have spillover on the inside where no one will see it, as opposed to the front. So being that this is an awkward shape, again, this is another place where the Dremel burnisher, I'm not going to use it, but goes perfectly because you can just slip that in there and turn it on. It's a little difficult. So whatever you have that can get in here, good. Works, whatever works best. I'm probably going to combine these two here. The hardest parts are obviously these curves because you gotta work your way in there. Okay, that'll be good for now. Obviously, spend as much time as you want getting that nice and burnished. I will stop there and move on to the tops. Okay, and then the curve. and that'll be good for now. So then go ahead and get some wax onto those edges that you just burnished. Okay, this one's a little tougher, obviously. Okay, cool. So at this point, you will have finished burnishing your edges on the top, thumb slot, and the card swoop to whatever liking you have. And now we will, in the next step, we will put this together with rubber cement, mark our stitching lines, and get ready to stitch this thing up. Okay, so now we'll be folding this up and gluing it down. If you're using like a thinner, more finished leather like an English bridle or a harness leather or Chrome Excel or anything like that, this part should be pretty simple because it's already pretty floppy. If you're using something firmer like an unoiled natural veg tan or like this shell cordovan here, this part's a little tougher because it doesn't really want to bend. So you're gonna kind of have to work it in there. So match up obviously the top of this card swoop to the corners of the top. Kind of just see how this is lining up. Hold it there, and if you need, put some pressure on the bend. Also, if you have like a saddler's hammer or something, you can hammer it down if you need to. I'm just going to use my hand pressure just to kind of get this thing bending. Okay, so that's how this will look. Let it come out, and then grab your rubber cement or your glue and glue it up. Okay. So now you want to glue this thing down. Make sure your edges line up nice and straight. Another thing I forgot in the inventory, I'll add them in as a footnote. But I'm slacking today with my inventory skills. So go ahead and grab some clips. Just place them down to hold this thing while it glues. Cool. So as you can see, this is what we got so far. I'm going to let this glue tack down for a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll mark our stitching grooves. Okay, so I gave that a minute or two just to tack the glue down, and now I'm going to take the clips off one side, still hold it towards the bottom because it's going to want to come apart with all that pressure on that fold there. Just clean it up with some sandpaper, get rid of some excess glue, and straighten it up if it needs to be straightened a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm just going to put them back on while I do the other side. That looks good too. Okay, so now we're at a point where we will be marking our stitching grooves. So I'm going to use, man, I also forgot the wing divider in the inventory. I didn't do so good with that one. Okay, so you're going to need a groover or a wing divider to mark your stitching line. I use, again, about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, put it on the mat there, and then just trace your line from the top down. You don't have to go all the way down. This is kind of subjective where you want to start. You obviously don't want to go too close to the fold. So pick a spot down here where you're comfortable stopping at. Okay, just gonna throw this back on the bottom and do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just gonna put a light one on the back for good measure. Okay, now we have our card holder ready to mark our stitching holes. So I'm going to take the 4-prong, and then I'm going to put the last prong, kind of hang it over the edge of the top there and butt it up against the edge, and then start marking light with hand pressure. And then I'm just going to walk that down to the end. Okay, and then do the same thing on the other side. And you want to make sure, obviously, you have the same amount of holes. Yep. Okay. Okay, so now that we have our stitching holes marked, I'm going to go ahead and go off camera, and then I'm going to punch these holes through, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I went ahead and punched all those holes through. Back. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch this up. Use this rust colored thread. I'm going to stitch off camera. If you need help saddle stitching, there's a full saddle stitch tutorial. Just look into the past videos. You can find that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the first hole. I'm going to go back, wrap around the top, and then come back to the first hole and then stitch down and back stitch twice. Same thing over here. Start in the first hole, go back, wrap around the top, come back into the first hole, go down to the end, back stitch twice, and then we'll come back. Okay, just finished stitching. And you can see this thread is actually not a good batch. Let me see if I can get this on the camera here. See how inconsistent the dye is? So it looks real solid on this spool here, but then as you pull pressure on it, I guess it separates, and you can see that the dye isn't struck through all the way, and it leaves these weird multicolor stitching. So I'm not very happy about the quality of this spool right here. But if you ever see maybe if you've talked to other leather workers or seen it online, people complain about uneven dye or dye lots on thread. That's a textbook example of a bad one. But we will continue on it. Like if I was planning on selling these, and this was like a finished product that I was selling, I'd be very unhappy right now. But that's not the case, so we'll continue. So now that we're all stitched up, we are going to take care of these edges, and then we'll be done. Do some rough sanding. Okay, take my edger and do the edges right up and down on both sides. Okay, go back to my water and my saddle soap. Dampen that edge up. And then go to town. Okay, let that sit for a sec. I'm gonna go. One side's a little rough, so I'm gonna do a little damp sand. Well, it's already damp, so I'm just gonna lightly touch it with a higher grit sandpaper. See if I can smooth it out a little bit better. I must have had some leftover rubber cement stuck on there. Grab my canvas, same thing. Okay, that'll work for now. Got a little too much glue left on this edge. Didn't shine up as nice as I thought it would. That's okay. So let me clear away some of the stuff, find some cards, and then we'll try out our card sleeve. Okay, so let's examine our final product here. It's pretty good, except for the obviously terrible color of the thread, but I couldn't do anything about that. It's just how terrible the dye in this thread came out. But everything else looking okay. Go ahead and grab some cards, stick them in to your little card sleeve. Whoops. And you can use the thumb slot, push them up. And there you go. So that will conclude the build-along video tutorial for this card sleeve. I apologize for all the missing inventory in the beginning there. I tried to get started too quickly and I messed up my own process. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section of the video, of the blog post, on Facebook, Mixplay Facebook page. You can email me directly, whatever works for you. Thanks for watching.